Hey everybody, thank you for joining us this Wednesday night for this chart session with John, aka Bubblehead, who has been a guest on the show before. John, thank you so much for joining again.
Awesome, it's my pleasure. Great to be here.
John is the founder of PositiveTrends.com, so if you haven't checked it out before, definitely give it a shot. John will be talking a little bit what they do on their side of their community and what they trade through the charts that he'll be showing. But before we get started, just a quick disclaimer, as always, nothing that we go over tonight is buy or sell advice or any type of financial advice for that matter. So just wanted to always give everybody a heads up before we even start talking about anything else. And if you have any questions about TrendSpider during the presentation or really anything about technical analysis that you want to ask, go on the chat and you can easily type that in. So once again, this is not a buy or sell presentation, more of a just chart session highlighting some of the cool features of TrendSpider while going over some of the charts into the second half of the week. The agenda for today, we are going to kind of hand it off right away to John, and then I will go over some of the broad markets, just looking at some of just the broad market ETFs, and then doing some case studies of recent moves on some of those ETFs that were pretty cool. And then we'll end it with a chart request and Q&A session. So, John, without further ado, take it over, my friend.
All right. Well, good evening, fellow traders. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Let me see if I can get this figured out here. Okay, so just getting the sharing done here. So basically, I've got another. Can everybody hear? Can you hear? Can you hear?
We're good.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Good, good, good. Good evening. Good evening. Paul, what's up? All right. So, yeah, so everything we're talking about, of course, like Jake just said, everything is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So let me just see if I could switch over to my my TrendSpider. Give me 1 second here. Okay, enable screen sharing, and then I want to do Chrome tab, and I want to do that. All right, so good stuff. Can everybody see the chart? Jake, can you see that? Is that coming through okay?
Bingo.
Okay, good. All right, so yeah, so Jake's going to do his rundown of the market. What I wanted to kind of show today, so this week on the free YouTube live streams that we do, we've been talking a lot about the Ichimoku Cloud. Okay, and so I just think it's a great tool, and we use it a lot with our trading group, and we use it for a lot of different reasons on different time frames. But for the most part, everything that we've been talking about this week has been really kind of hammering down on the main reasons, right? We can use the cloud as support, and this is the Ichimoku Cloud right here. You can see, and TrendSpider has this now, which is really, really great, right? So, and there's a couple of cool tools that you can do with it, which we're going to talk about in a second. But some of the main things we've covered this week is using the cloud as support and resistance, right? So you can see right here, just an example here with Apple, you can see how it served as support and then bounced right off of it, like came back up, served as support again, and bounced off of it, right? So it's a great way to look at the general trend. It's also a good place to look for strategic trades, right? So so that's one of the support and resistance idea is the other thing. The other thing that we've talked about too is entering the cloud. And once we enter the cloud, we can see, right, how it can be bullish or bearish, right? So you can see here, once we got into the cloud, we had a bullish raindrop right here. It started to work its way up, right, kind of meandered around, and then got bullish, right? So so there are a couple cool tools like that there. So you can see here with this cloud, right, we didn't bounce off of it. We pierced the cloud. We had a couple lower shadow or lower raindrop areas that came into the cloud. You can see we eventually broke out of the cloud. So so those are a couple of the main things that we've been talking about so far this week. And you can see, even with the whatever platform you're using, it can be really good. And TrendSpider's got some pretty cool tool with it now. So, so just wanted to kind of touch on that today. So this kind of the cool thing about TrendSpider, we talked about it last time we did a webinar, was the raindrops, right? And I just think they're great, right? So as you guys know, we like to use their tools. We like to do trend line, type work. Okay. See, is that, yep, there we go. So we have our trend lines, right? We go high to low, and we go to here, and we look for raindrops that break through those trend lines, right? We're not really seeing anything too much here, on this particular one, but eventually, when we do, they're very, very powerful, right? And so what's cool about this, right, is that in addition to the, let me see if I can, yep. Yeah. So in addition to the trend line, one thing we could use is the raindrops with the cloud. Okay. And so I just think this is really cool. So one of the things we like to use the cloud for in our group is potential targets, right? So and we use our trend lines for that. So once we break out of a trend line, right? Once we break out of a trend line, so say we go from here to the lows to here, right? Once we get a nice, confirmed break over a trend line, bullishly, say, yeah, this looks pretty good right here, then our target is the cloud. But using the raindrops, using the blue raindrops, right? That's where we have that equilibrium, with the VWAP, and it really gives an interesting perspective, right? And on when we can anticipate a move to the cloud. And so just kind of zooming in right here, a couple of things that we could see with Apple, for instance, which just had earnings this evening. So right now it's showing a little bit of a gap up. But when we see a blue raindrop, right, with the TrendSpider, we can see a confirmation candle, particularly over a trend line, right? So a lot of the tools we like to use in our group is, like, we look at our minor pivots, we look for a bullish close over that minor pivot, which we saw here. But once we see a bullish close above the blue raindrop, right, there's a high probability that we eventually make our way to the cloud. So in this case, we had a blue raindrop right here, we had a bullish close over to the trend line itself, and we worked our way up to the cloud. So that's very interesting. One that's kind of setting up neat right now is Zoom. Okay, that had a big day today. Okay, and I kind of wanted to touch on this too, because we've been tracking this for a while, and it's just a very, very powerful setup on this one too. So if we go here, right, we've been tracking this trend line here. Now, what's interesting is this one, that Zoom gap down on earnings, right? And so with the gap down on earnings, it was it's sort of highlighted because they had good earnings, right? And so when we continue to watch this stock get beat up for no reason, right, all we want to do, I mean, we're just kind of salivating over it for a great move, right? And so this was a fantastic move over the last couple of days, and using the TrendSpider tool of the blue raindrop in this technique, shows that that it can be very effective, right? So right here we have this downward trend line that we normally track, and at this point, right, we haven't really had a bullish close over, and this is a little bit off, but technically this blue raindrop, on a standard chart would be under the trend line, but still, regardless, it's very powerful right here. So we would look for a close above those levels and then a continuation move, right? So either way, once we get that blue raindrop in and we have a confirmation bar here, we can look to go long, right? And so even if we went long this day, right, on the 28th, right, we would have had one inside day to wait, and then we got an explosive move today, right? And so it's very, very good. And once it pushes through that trend line, right, with these with, I like to call it, a northern raindrop, and then the ones that are lower, I like to call them a southern raindrop. And so, but basically, when we have a northern raindrop like this, then we can anticipate a potential move up to the cloud, and it's already working really great on that. Some folks have traded this today. Some folks in our group have did really, really well, and so that was a great move right there. And using that raindrop was a good thing. So it's like, okay, John, what's going on? What about that raindrop? How come it didn't go up? Well, we didn't get a confirmation candle above it, right? And so here we can see we had a northern raindrop above it, and then obviously it's already had a great move. Some folks went in at like 10 cents and got out at like 65 cents, and it was like $1 on the options. But this one right here, right, we don't have any confirmation candles above it or raindrops above it. And so right here, we could see we actually invalidate the move back to the cloud by this southern raindrop right here. So how we, closed lower in the raindrop level, right? And nothing else is closed above it since then. So that is a concept that we would continue to hold trend. And so this is very, very powerful, and using the tool like the raindrop can really, really help catch a big move like this. So very, very impressive stuff. And you can kind of see this anywhere, right? If you look at, if we just kind of tune in, just look at Amazon, right? We can see here, right? Anytime you get a raindrop and you get confirmation below it, we'd expect to go back to the cloud. So we had a blue raindrop right here, no real confirmation yet. Actually, this blue raindrop essentially served as confirmation and came down, right? We had this raindrop here, right? Blue range up here. And we finally had a confirmation candle right here, and that came back down to the cloud. So you can start to see this everywhere. Blue range up right here, confirmation range up, right? Back down to the cloud, right? And then at that point, once you get to the cloud, then you can use cloud trading techniques. Like, is it going to serve as support, resistance, things like that. So this is just a great tool. And I'm just, I'm just enamored by the raindrop tool. And there's so many great ways that we can apply to, standard techniques of trading, or I'm not sure if the techniques that I teach are really standard, right? I think some of them are, unique to our group, but to add this to it just adds so much more depth to it, and gives it a lot more power. And I'm happy that that TrendSpider came up with this, added the cloud to their portfolio. So anyway, really, really good stuff. So just kind of wanted to go over that today. And I think we covered a few highlights on that. And I think just looking at Apple, looking at Amazon, and then that Zoom Really impressive stuff. Just kind of wanted to show there. So that's all I got, Jake, for this evening. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Awesome, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that. I am gonna kind of go along the same route you're going and go over some case studies on these raindrops and how you can really use them on top of just the blue raindrop, but really utilizing and kind of visioning how this volume is flowing through different parts of a time period. So I will go ahead and share my screen, and you can see my screen. All good. So this is SPY, and SPY has been really interesting, especially this week. What we've had here is a pretty interesting break to the upside. Notice how we really tested resistance right at the 302 level multiple times. Finally broke through it on the 28th, and then we've kind of continued to move around to the upside. However, we did fill the gap here, which, gaps can fill very quickly or they can stay open for a very long time, i.e. this guy right here, still very much an open gap below. For those that are maybe a little bearish on the market, that may be a target people are looking at. But yeah, we've definitely got, the Fed day today with this huge wick on both sides of the candle. So we'll just have to see what happens tomorrow. John, I think you said futures are a little red at the moment, right?
Yeah, they were. Last time I checked, they were down. Let me just check real quick. Sorry, guys. They were S&P futures. Yeah, just slightly down, like three quarters. So down 75 cents right now on the ES. So, Nasdaq is up a little bit with Facebook and Apple. So, but interesting that the S&P is slightly red. So still kind of choppy. Interesting stuff.
A little chop. Gotta love the chop. Well, it has been quite a move, since October, the beginning of October. So, chop isn't, out of the question after literally moving. You can see here on the chart, starting from October 3rd to the top today, we've literally gone up almost 6% in about 3 weeks and 6 days. So we're definitely starting to make a little bit of a crest, if you will. I don't want to say the market's going to tank or anything, but if you look in the past when we've made this type of big move, i.e. you've got this big move down, then you've got this big move up. It's kind of like just a wave. So we're really kind of just looking to see if this wave continues or we broke right above this area, just to kind of trap people who are extra bullish to really pull the market down into the rest of the week after the Fed kind of status quo dust settles. We'll just have to see. One thing that I wanted to mention, though, the resistance area has been one area that's been making the market on the upside. But on the downside here, look at how nicely the EMA 50 from the weekly chart has acted as support both in August when we broke to the downside and in early October when we bottomed out here on the 3rd. So that's one of the nice things about TrendSpider. You can have, let's say, the daily price action up and have the weekly overlay without having to split the screen. So a lot of the time, I like to trade the weekly and the daily price action, more of a swing trader. And so for me, when I'm looking at the daily chart, it's really nice to be able to just overlay that and consolidate the chart all in one and have everything I need just on one chart. So that's something that's been really interesting to see, this range really holding since late July into pretty much now until we just broke it. So we'll have to see what happens. But going to QQQ, this is one that kind of signaled this breakout before S&P. So you can see here. Let me remove this, and we'll go to Raindrops. You can see here we really broke out of this area of resistance actually before SPY. So, it was interesting to see, especially with the raindrops here, all of the volume focused above this trend line. So, we tested this area multiple times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally ripped through. And this almost looks like a balloon, and that's what we call it, like a balloon breakout where a lot of this volume is showing that buyers are definitely in control, because all of that volume that is being bought it's being bought at the top of this price range, and then you've got your continuation up the next day, creating this gap. Well, to talk about gaps, this was another one that filled the gap rather quickly. You can see here with the candle today, we had a quick fill to the downside and then a rip to the upside. And same thing, we've got this gap to the downside around 190 to 191 or so. And so it'll be interesting to see if this did break down. Those would be the levels to watch. But this does look like a relatively strong candle, and you've got a really strong uptrend here. So we'll just have to see what happens. But the Fed was pretty vague today, so we'll have to see how the market takes that next couple days. The charts definitely take a couple days to kind of let the dust settle, especially after a kind of status quo changing event like the Fed announcing anything, essentially, especially when algorithms are looking for any type of word that they say, any change in the words that they use. And so that takes a couple days for everything to kind of sort out. So that's something that I wanted to talk about on the Qs. Another one that I wanted to mention was IWM. Same type of case study here with the blue raindrop. Excuse me, not the blue raindrop, but the green raindrop. You can see here we were consolidating for about 4 days here. So we had a very tight range that the price was trading in. And then finally, same thing. You've got this guy poking his head out. You've got a lot of that volume focused above the trend line. And then you've got 2 days of follow through here. So one thing that I would recommend, these candles are forming throughout the day. So, it's kind of hard to say, oh, I should have bought this candle, but I'm seeing it on a Saturday. So, generally you want to look at the end of day raindrop to see how these are forming, because if you're looking at something 10 minutes before the close, the volume isn't going to change the raindrop that much. You're getting a general idea of how it's going to close. And so that may help you get an idea if you want to go long, if you want to go short into the next day. Same thing, we call this a balloon, and then you may have a little pullback, or you just may have a rip right back up to test this resistance. We'll just have to see how the market takes this recent Fed stuff. Last thing that I wanted to show on the case study side of things with breakthroughs with raindrops is Facebook. Facebook did absolutely rip after hours, so we're not really going to take that into account. But same type of thing, right? We've got this area of resistance. Opposite. Rather than this big bulb of volume at the top, we've got literally no volume at all above this resistance line. You've got a little bit of volume above the line during the first half of the day on the left-hand side, but then during the second half of the day, there's no volume at all. All of that volume is aggregating near the bottom of the range, even creating new lows here, and then you've got your move down. Same thing here. Yesterday, we had a very low volume spike above this line, and then you had your continuation down. Now, same thing as I just mentioned, sometimes you're going to want to check this out, 15 minutes before the close, because if you see this type of candle forming before the close, you may say, oh, well, I may enter puts tomorrow to maybe catch a move down to possibly test this trend line below. So if I turn on the regular hollow candle here, you'll see this wick, and this is the daily candle, but it's taking into account after hours action. But you can see, how close we got here to the bottom of this trend line after we had that candle. So, especially if you're a day trader or a scalper where you want to get a quick, overnight play or something like that, these are the types of candles to look for where you can get a little bit of an edge seeing where that volume is flowing for the current day that you're looking at. So those are a couple examples that I wanted to go over. I know we have a ton of different chart requests. John, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do half and I do half? I can do all of them. I'm sure some people want to see yours. It's up to you.
Yeah, we could. We could kind of go back and forth. I'm not sure how how easy it is to jump back and forth between
Yeah,
screens.
let me. I'll do it. I'll kind of drive it, and then please feel free to.
Yeah, if I see anything interesting there, maybe I'll chime in or something like that. How's that sound?
Okay, beautiful. All right, so let's just start with Facebook. We had a couple of requests for Facebook. So right now, as we just mentioned, the last couple of days, we did have a little bit of a pullback. However, the earnings did come out after hours, clearly showing a big move up. So for me, you've got this ascending triangle breakout. That's generally considered a bullish sign. We'll have to see how the market kind of takes this in the morning. But yeah, this is a pretty strong breakout into the second half of the week. All right, so Facebook, check. Cron was the next one that I had on my list. Let's take a look at Cron. I haven't looked at Cron in a while. What is this? The daily. I'm just going to turn on the trends here, see if it finds anything interesting. Yeah, so this is actually pretty interesting. So what I did here was I just turned on the trends button. I wanted to see if we could find anything quickly, which we did. You can see how quick, these levels were popping up, showing how close we're getting to the end of the apex of this kind of symmetrical triangle looking setup here. So we can delete a couple of these, delete that one as well. So you can see here that, the price action isn't perfect here along this resistance, but it has respected this line a ton, and it even respected it on this gap up before pulling back. And, this is a classic case of why try to guess which way the price action is going to go? Why not create an alert on both ends of, support and resistance, and just let the price action tell you what to do. In this case, I'll just do triangle support, expires in 15 days, and it's set up. Same thing for resistance, create alert, touch. I want it to tell me when the 5-minute candle closes in this area, and I'll do triangle R for resistance, 15 days. So, without me having to guess what's going to happen, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. I could maybe try to look for some divergences on the percent range or something, but it's not looking very, promising at this point. So why not just let the price action tell you what to do? And if once it breaks through one of these levels, then we know it's time to start looking at that direction a little more in depth. So that's what I would kind of look at on Cron. Everybody's going to have a slightly different view here, but that's what these automated trend lines are for. And you can easily change these around as well pretty easily.
Jake, if I could just show real quick, I just got to show this chart real quick, and then how do I switch over?
You just go to actions and screen share. You should be good now.
Okay, we should be good. All right, so let me pop this up here so everybody see that one. So really cool. This is just what we were talking about with Cron just a moment ago, right? So the cool part too, again, in addition to the TrendSpider trend lines, right? So one of the cool things about the cloud, right, is that it shows you generally what the trend is, right? So we can see that the cloud continues to work its way down, right? And so one of the cool things right here that we were just talking about, the blue raindrop, right, is, and looking for a bullish closeout. Look what happened right here. So we had a blue raindrop right here, and then we had a northern, raindrop right here, and look at that quick pop up to the cloud, right? So that worked, right? I mean, it worked right away, boom, right there, and then came back in, right? So then after that, it already hit target. So now it just continues with trend, right? And then you see another blue raindrop right here. And did we see any sort of bullish close above that level? We certainly didn't, right? So the trend continues its way down. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out right there. So very, very interesting stuff. Anyway, back to you, Jake.
All righty. Hey, next, if you see anything at any time when I share one, please feel free to share your screen again, and I'll disable mine. This is perfect. So I think that answers the question on Cron, kind of what we're seeing or what the general charts are looking like. Let's go to Tesla. That was the next one on the list. Old Tesla. All right. This actually has some old fibs that I made, but it's interesting to see how well the fibs continue to really be respected here on Tesla. So this is the daily chart. And essentially what I have here is I've measured the move from this point here And then that's my first starting point. I measured it to down here, and then you've got your fibs that show up. Notice how perfectly Tesla, when it did gap up on earnings, gapped up right to the 0.618, almost to the dot. And then we rip up again, and we missed the 0.782 by $4. We overshoot it by about $4, and that was likely probably some short squeeze action going on. And so this is just a cool example of being able to see, the nice thing about these areas is, it's not like you're looking back. It's like, oh, that happened. How can I see that happening? This area this fib level has essentially, been there since I drew this measured move. And let's say, the measured move had kind of formed. We had this move up kind of here. This measured move moves fibs would have captured this support here, would have captured this resistance, and this resistance without having to change the measured move at all. So I personally don't use fibs a ton, but we did recently have a guest on who really has changed my perspective on fibs and how well price respects those areas. John, any input that you want to give on this one?
I think, Tesla's, interesting right now. I think this is kind of pausing a little bit. I think we're good there. I think you kind of nailed that.
Okay. Yeah, let's do shop. Good old shop. Shopify. Ooh, still getting very close. Well, let's turn on the raindrops. I'm just curious if there's any blue guys that have recently formed. Nope, not yet. We are getting close, though, to the apex of this descending triangle here. So, generally you can possibly look at this as a bearish setup. However, this can easily break up as well. But, we'll just have to see. If you look at the last, year and a half, this thing has ripped since December 21st of 2018. It's only gone up about 240% to the peak, trough to peak. And so we're still up from that bottom about 150%. So, I don't want to say shop is going one way or the other. All I'm going to say is there's a lot of people that are holding in the profit still from over the earlier in the year. So, we'll just have to see if, me personally, and that's not saying much, but this is the setup that I'm kind of looking at. And if price breaks through this area, that's kind of when, for me, the status quo would change here. John?
Yeah, I mean, basically with shop, and I don't even need to show my chart on this. I mean, the fact that it held up after horrendous earnings is, speaks volumes to some of the stuff that we're looking at right now. No raindrops on this one, but you see how it's on the cloud. See how it bounced off of the cloud a little bit ago? This has been a case study right there. That right there was a doji right at the cloud. I was hoping it was going to be a blue raindrop, but it wasn't. It was just a doji there. But that was key. And we do Elliott wave analysis, and shop was a key one on that too. And that was a key level. That was at a 50% retrace of that down move, right, from its highs. And so it was so many confluence points right there that saw that coming down. And now we're kind of looking for a move back up. And just the fact that we have an inside day right now over holding horrendous earnings speaks volumes to the potential for this thing to work what we're seeing as a potential wave C up, but I'm curious to see how it plays out, because wave C was normally about the finish of this wave would be about 55% of that range, which would put it slightly above the cloud. And so I'm really the possibility of the forward looking of that move is so contrarian, right? Because it's like you're going long straight into resistance, right? And then once it breaks out of the cloud, that's very bullish. And so the concept would be to then go short right after the breakout. So that's what we're looking at right now to see how this plays out. I'm not planning on trading the push through the cloud, but once I see it start to turn, around that 55% retracement area and come back into the cloud, then I'm looking on putting a short on, because I expect to see a move with a similar strength as that first leg down from the all-time high there.
Very nice. We'll just turn on the fibs here. Yeah, look at that. Right at the 50% level too.
So much confluence right there. Incredible stuff. And your trend and the trend line too.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Oh, that's a beautiful case study right there. All right. On
Beautiful
to
trade.
the NG. Never heard of it, honestly. Change Healthcare. This looks like a recent IPO, if I had to guess. So personally, if you are trading IPOs, that's awesome. But indicators are generally not going to help you that much because there's just not that much data, especially if you're swinging. However, if you're day trading, you're day trading on the 15-minute, all of a sudden you've got a lot more data to go off of. So, me personally, I don't trade like this, but everyone's going to have their own style. Doesn't mean you can't do it. But for me, let's just turn on the trends here, see if anything pops up. Oh, there we go. Okay, so nice symmetrical triangle forming here kind of thing. So we'll just have to see if that kind of what that does on the 15-minute candle and kind of go from there. So let's see, just going to remove some of these lines, clean it up a little bit. Some of these overlap. All right, so we've got a couple trends that we're kind of trading within, right? We were in this longer term kind of upward sloping trend. Within that upward sloping, it's almost like a very slight ascending wedge. And then here you've got this symmetrical triangle forming. And then within that symmetrical triangle form, you've got this like upward sloping channel trying to form. So all in all, from a shorter term standpoint, these may be some areas to watch. This is a really cool example of me literally not having to draw any of my own trend lines. And the same thing, though, the system didn't do this automatically for me. It did do the trend lines for me. So it found all of these possibilities. But then I went in and kind of still made it my discretionary analysis. So just a cool case study on how you can do that. Anything on your end, John?
Yeah, let me just show one thing real quick. I mean, it's nothing major because it's inexpensive, an inexpensive stock. But real quick here on the, you can see just everything we've been talking about here. One of the cool things about the cloud, right, is it takes some time, right? Because the 9 and the 26 averages have to catch up, right? But once they do, the cool part about the cloud is it's one of the only indicators that's somewhat forward-looking, right? It's not necessarily predictive, but it's somewhat forward-looking, right? So when we can start to see this kind of movement down, right, we can start to get a little bit bearish on it, right? So or at least think of it as a possibility, right? Because if algos trade off the cloud, right, and if traders trade off the cloud, well, once we get to the cloud and we find resistance there, well, there's a chance that they're going to try to short it there, right? So it's not saying that it's going to go down, but it's showing us that hey, there is a chance. So if we can find other confluence levels, things like that, like on the shop, that we could look for those type of setups. And so just real quick, just basically what we're talking about, now that we know the cloud is here, that it's forming, once we're back here, right? Well, here's your blue raindrop. So all we need is a bullish close above that blue raindrop, right? And here we go right here. So, I mean, not huge, right? So, I mean, 1268 all the way up to 1305. So a 40-cent move, a little bit of pain, right? But wouldn't have stopped out of that candle, and then boom, it gets right back to the cloud. So anyway, kind of cool stuff there, just in line with what we've been talking about. That's all I have on CHNG.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard of this one. I'll have to put it on the radar. BYND is the next one we're going to check out. This one's been requested quite a bit. Same thing. I'm going to do just a blank screen here. Let's see what the trends are finding. So we have a couple areas here that are of interest for me personally, and this is just me doing it discretionarily. Everyone's gonna have their own kind of way to look at this, but for me, we're kind of in this weird, I don't even know what it is, kind of like this like ray looking thing, resistance area. So we're kind of right in the middle of this almost megaphone looking setup here if we remove this. Now, the thing is, at this point, it's really a matter of which way does the price action go. We are pretty much trading still pretty high from the open on the IPO on the 2nd of May, but still, this has been beaten down literally, quite a bit in the last Let's see. What does this move? Yeah, 65% in the last 3 months. That's a pretty big move to the downside. So, you know, they could be literally selling, you know, fake meat. Oh, they are. Yeah, that's right. So they could literally be selling anything that, you know, it doesn't seem like there's a market for it. But if you're shorting something, you have to cover at some point, which makes artificial buy. I don't want to say it's artificial buying, but it's not actually people going long. It's just people covering their short. So, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if there is a little bit of a short covering here, especially with the gap down from earnings. We did have this original gap up from June, finally filled that in mid-October, gapped down again. So this is kind of our new earnings gap that, you know, is what I would call kind of like status quo changing. If we break through this, you know, this kind of then levels the playing field again for, you know, you don't know where it's going to go. Generally, if there's a gap, it's kind of like an air pocket that the price needs to fill. But like we saw in SPY earlier, these things don't have to fill that quickly. They can take their sweet time. But this is definitely an area that I'd be watching for, especially into the second half of the week. John, anything there?
On Beyond?
Yeah, Beyond. Do you trade
Beyond?
Yeah,
real quick. I can show you real quick. I mean,
are you do you trade Beyond often?
Not often enough. It's tough because you know, we like to we still always keep risk in mind because we trade options primarily, in fact only. So some folks in the group do trade stock, but I only do options. So we do keep an eye on premium, and you know, we were looking at shorting. Let's see, here was that low right here. I think I'm on right. Yeah. So here's the low right here. We were looking at shorting on this Friday right here as it moved down because it closed below all these key levels, and the premiums are just so ridiculous on puts. You know, that we passed because it's like, goodness, you know, the risk there was just too much. But then it's funny, you get over here and you're like, wow, well, the premiums are a lot higher now, you know, that type of thing. But what I did want to point out is just that, you know, of course we saw the setup happening, and I like that it got the follow through, right? Because we were expecting the gap fill and everything there. But a couple cool things right here, right? Again, movement to the cloud, right? Forward looking, right? Here's your blue raindrop. Here's your southern raindrop right here. Boom, right? It gets all the way down to the cloud area, right? Then you had these two blue raindrops right here. But did we get anywhere a bullish close over any of those raindrops? We did not, right? And in fact, we finally got confirmation either here or, like I said, if this is what scared us all, was the fact that it kept on bouncing off of these support levels. And once it closed below right here, you can see it was like, see a cloud, no, not interested. You're not my you're not my friend, you're my trend, right? And then it worked its way down that way. So
love it. Yeah, I kind of was taken back a little bit because Beyond, what was that, 2 days ago, Tuesday, just absolutely ripped like 6% plus, like within 30 minutes. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Oh yeah. It's a nasty little tricky little stock, you know. So it's you know, day trading is tough because the spreads can get crazy and it can sure move when it wants to. But these type of swings, if you can get positioned decently with it and somehow manage the risk, and a lot of times like a spread, you know, like a vertical or something like that is a great way to control it. So just something to think about.
Okay. I love it. All right. So next on the list is our friend Costco. So, John, do you want to go and share your screen?
Sure. Yeah. Oh goodness, Costco. We love Costco. So let me pull it up right here. 1 second. So, I mean, what a fantastic stock to trade. So, all right, guys, so really interesting stuff. Again, blue ranger right here, right? This is right before earnings, right? And then we had this confirmation here after earnings, right? You could see that it had already come to the cloud, right? No bearish closes below there, right? And so to us, this is a long. So we had a nice swing on this one, and it, you know, basically went all the way from the 290s up to the 300s, right? So pretty interesting stuff here, right? We had a range up right here and some bearish closes, and it's starting to work its way down to the cloud. And we're actually hoping that it does get there so we can buy the dip on this thing, because I mean, Costco is just so strong. I mean, it's forever strong. I mean, just look at the cloud on this thing. It's just like the trend has just been phenomenal on this. So yeah,
stair stepper into heaven. saying is perfect. I mean, bounce off the, I'm not too familiar with the cloud, but, bounce off the, what is that, the Senko A or something?
Yeah, span A, span B.
Yeah. So, wow, perfect bounce. I mean, you could have played that for the last year.
Yeah, any pullback on this thing, the way we do our trend lines that we talked about on our last webinar, is just phenomenal. So macro trend is just so strong on this, and the cloud really shows it too. You can just see it.
Beautiful. We have a question I just want to answer real quick. Do raindrops replace support and resistance typically used with candlestick charts? No, raindrops are a way to visualize how the volume is flowing throughout a period, whether that's the daily, whether that's the 30-minute. So you actually want to use raindrops around support and resistance areas, just like you'd look at a wick. So, what you can do is, let's say that there's a candlestick wick above a trend line, but then you go to the raindrop and you see that there's a big bulge of volume above the trend line, as we talked about in the QQQ example. You can use the raindrops like that. To answer your question, yes, it's more to see volume flow in those particular zones. So throughout the price range for a particular period. All right. Is that all you got for cost? Can we move on?
I think we're good.
All right, check. Let's do S-Bucks.
Did you look at that GH already? Did you already look at GH?
I didn't. I actually skipped it. I can go to it right now. Yeah, let's do. You can do another one. GH.
I'll just do GH real quick, just because I know it came in through there, through the Twitter. Guardant Health. Bullish. I mean, look what it's doing. I mean, this is just phenomenal. We've been tracking this too with our trendline methods. It's definitely been on the radar. I mean, super strong right here. I mean, if you just kind of grab right here, here's your low, here's your level, right? We love these blue raindrops over the trend line, and look at that bullish close over it. So at this point, it's just working its way up to the cloud. And that's all I got.
Beautiful. All right. So that's a check. Let's go to the next one. NIO. I'll share my screen for this one. You mind?
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
Neo. Let's see what we got here. I'm just curious. I do keep an eye on this one. We were watching it a little closer because some of our team members were trading it before the absolute bloodbath here. But the reason why I think this one's interesting, same thing, right? There's a gap. Gaps don't always fill, but you would be shocked at how often they do fill. Now, if you're trading, and trust me, I've been burned on this before. If you're trading like a penny stock that likes to dilute their shares every 6 months or something, that's probably a gap that may never be filled. And I've, like I said, experienced those where those gaps just, go out the window. But there are a lot of stocks out there. I'm not saying NIO's the best company out there, but it sure as heck isn't like some of these penny stocks out there. But, this is a pretty big gap above that could act as like a magnet above. You are starting to find definitely a bid around this area. You can tell because we've now tested this zone. At first, we overshot this zone, tested again. We're now on this exact area once again. And so, the general kind of natural area to watch above would be this range that it's been trading in now for quite some time. So same thing, if I wanted to maybe get an alert next time the price action breaks above to this area here, or let's say, I'm watching the SMA above into tomorrow, right click, create an alert. I wouldn't want to put this much sensitivity just because that's a lot in this case, but within 5, let's do within 10. No, that's too much. Within 5 cents of the line. So anytime the price action closes within 5 cents of this moving average and the 5-minute candle closes in that purple area, I'll be alerted. So I want to know when it touches, and we'll just have this set for the next 5 days. This is a pretty interesting setup, especially with the bullish Rami here. So wouldn't be shocked if there's a decent move tomorrow. Don't take my word for that. Please don't trade off that. I'm just basing that simply on how this caught a bid today and really has responded over the last couple times it's tested this area. John, anything you want to add here? I don't think this is one that you typically trade, right?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. Neo. All right. Let's do S-Bucks. Oh,
Sensible person.
coffee. Wow. Rip. Holy mackerel. What a move today. Let's turn on the Raindrops and see where the volume was here.
It's good after hours too.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is a really cool example here. Let me just turn off this SMA. There we go. Okay, this is a really cool example here of not necessarily a convincing move on the raindrop, but on the hollow candle, it looks like, you know, this thing's going to the moon. Notice here, open, close, definitely buyers in control, but simply based on the price. Now, if we actually look at how the volume is flowing throughout the day here, you actually don't see a ton of volume near the top of the range here. Actually, you barely see any at all. During the first half of the day, all of that volume was focused at the bottom. During the second half of the day, there was really no volume at all at the top of the range. Most of it was focused kind of in the middle here. So, you know, not to say that this won't continue to the upside, but it is interesting to see that from a volume flow perspective, you don't see that balloon type setup that you'd want to see on that type of move. Anything, John, that you want to add here?
On S-Bucks?
S-Bucks.
Yeah, so S-Bucks, let me show you just real quick. So S-Bucks is a there's a funny comment in there from Gabe there. So yeah, there we go. We got it pulled up there. Yeah, so with S-Bucks, guys, buy the drip. that's what we talk about. So buy the drip. So yeah, so basically this thing's has been getting ready, I mean, for a while. You know, we've been stocking this thing. We love pullbacks on great names, and we look for those key reversals. That's why, you know, those raindrops are great when they form right on a key pullback, right? So here, right, you can see, you know, we didn't have any blue raindrops, but we have been tracking this for a while. They had great earnings and have just kind of chopped a little bit and pulled back. They kind of gave like they lowered some future guidance earlier, and we've just been kind of stocking this. So tomorrow is going to give hopefully a great close above these levels, and we're going to look for a swing up to the cloud.
Cool. Yeah, this is one that you know, may help Bill Ackman out after his trades that didn't go so well over the last few years.
That's right.
I know he's got a huge position in S-Bucks.
Yeah, he's felt some pain.
Yeah, so, but I think he's up on this one. But yeah, great analysis there, and it's always interesting to see, you know, because I've never used the cloud before, and it's just really cool to see how price action respects this stuff so well.
Absolutely.
All right, so TLRA. Are you familiar with this one? I don't know where I got it was somewhere in the chat or somewhere. So
I know TLRY, you know, Tilray, but
yeah,
TLRA I don't think I've seen or messed with too much.
Yeah, this is kind of a smaller cap. It's maybe not a smaller cap, but just a lower price stock, kind of similar to Neo, what we just did. But really, this one just kind of like, yeah, it looks like it's respecting the cloud more than anything.
Just kind of looking at the trend right here. So yeah, so I mean, here we go. You know, we have our minor pivots right here, bullish close above it here, and it's just working its way back to the cloud at this point. So a little bit choppy, but just be careful. Might run it into it as resistance, and then, you know, might continue to work its way back down. So it's getting really, really close to target.
All right. Here's one. Oh, okay. This is one. I'm going to take over here just for a second. Couple case studies here on McDonald's, Mr. MCD we have, or Miss, let's see. Okay, you can see my screen again. All right, so This is a classic, you know, support into resistance type move. So notice how we did find support here originally. You know, 1, 2, extend these across. We did try to find support, and we initially did, right? We had a candlestick. Is this what you call like a south candlestick? Or
yeah, sort of a southern raindrop, you know? So
okay, so like you kind of had your southern raindrop forming here. So you did have, you know, a very, very slight area of support before just continuing to move down. But notice how when it did break down, it moved right back up to this resistance point. I mean, almost exactly. So this is another example too with the raindrop where, you know, McDonald's is showing that buyers are definitely flowing in. You can see the volume actually flowing up the price range into the second half of the day here. So this is a really interesting one to watch into tomorrow, just based on this raindrop here, and especially after the fact that, you know, it did gap down and then had 5 days in a row down after earnings. So this would be another one. Another thing I'm just going to point out, I could talk everyone's ear off about these gaps, but definitely something to watch as this tries to find us some stability after the dust settles here. I'm just curious what it looks like on the weekly. Raindrops we can't do on the weekly yet. I just want to look at this on the hollow, see if there's anything interesting here. Oh, wow. Possible kind of hammer forming here on the weekly. The thing about this is it's only Wednesday. So, you know, speaking from experience and really getting burned, like, you know, making a move before a candle's fully kind of closed, this doesn't mean that the weekly candle is going to close as a hammer. It just means that with the current price action up to, you know, Wednesday at close, this is what it looks like. But this is looking interesting after this big move to the downside, showing buyers definitely catching a bid here as buyers come in.
Yeah, agree. I mean, just, you know, Paul's here. We've been looking at some Elliott wave on this one. So it looks like it's working on like a wave 4 up right now. So we'll just, so that's looking pretty good there. Good. Real quick, I can jump to the next one right there that I see on here. I've got FedEx. I can kind of jump on that real quick because
yeah,
we're getting pretty close to 10:30. I don't want to be up, you know, too late. But I want to get through as many as I can here. So FedEx, real quick, had some really strong moves. This is one we had a swing on. We were long on. Let me see. Let me get my trend line on here. I think we were long on this candle here. So these are interesting to do after big gaps down. Oh, click trend line. Here, okay, so here's our levels right there, pretty good right here. So we had a bullish close in this area. I think we went long here, so I had a nice move up, but it continued to move up to the cloud. We love using the cloud as a potential target. So anyway, great stuff there on FedEx. At this point, it's kind of found some resistance right here. We're getting a little bit of a southern raindrop on that one. So so we'll see if that gets any follow through down there. Yeah.
The southern raindrop, the northern raindrop, I love it. That's really cool. It's a really easy way to just, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that. So we've got about 3 more left. I know it's getting late. We have UNH, INTC, and TDOT. I guess there's Roku as well, but I know it's getting late on the East Coast, and we're pretty much almost at an hour. We've got about 7 minutes left, so we'll see how many we can go through in 7 minutes, and we'll just call it even right at 10:30 Eastern, if that works for you, John.
Yeah, it sounds good. Do you want me to jump on UNH there?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yep. Sounds good. UNH. Harvey, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, for registering and checking this out. It's always fun doing it with these guys. So you guys are awesome. So here we go. So this right here. So UNH has been we've been stocking this one for a while. This has been the macro trend right here. Right, every time it's coming to the trend line, right, you can see our methods right here. So we had this trend line right here up to the trend line. These are very powerful moves, right? When you get to the trend line and look for reversals, right? So here you go, right here, guys. You have the blue raindrop here, right? Do we see any bullish closes over that blue raindrop to get us to the cloud? No. Do we see a close below this trend line to say like, hey, this might be going back down? Yes. Okay. A little bit of a bear flag it turned into, and then flush. This thing was incredible, guys. This entry right here we looked at 63 cents on these puts went to like over $6 in just a couple days. Okay, and now what do we have? We have a blue raindrop right here, right, to trigger the trend line breakout. How powerful is that? Bullish close above that with the northern raindrop, and then boom, right there. So this was actually a huge move the next day. Okay, quick pause bar, and then of course it had earnings. We don't like to trade the earnings, but anyway, it's a big move right here. Okay, inside raindrop, right? tag that range. This is incredible. 23 cents that day, up to $2 on that trade, right to the top of the cloud. And then we just kind of wait, right? This was our trade of the week with the newsletter, and we had a nice another inside range up right here at the cloud top for a quick break. Very, very powerful move. Nice swing trade on that one. And again, a little bit of a pullback right here, and it's continuing to work its way back up. This is a Dow darling, and it's continuing to move. So looking, right now the trend is up. So so it's up until proven otherwise.
Trend is your friend. Let's see. Check off on UNH. Roku. I think Roku's one that probably a lot of people are watching. That's always been a big one.
Roku. Yeah, Roku is definitely on the radar. Roku's, had an epic run. We had a swing on this one actually up to the cloud on this move right here. So this bullish move right here, we've been stocking this front one for a while because these type of names, right, are not the ones that just kind of drift down forever. These are names these are fun to trade. These are high beta names, right? So whenever you see like a big pullback in a name like this, like you just salivate over the potential for it to break out of this trend line and start to move back up. Okay, so here you can see blue raindrop right here. Finally had a bullish close over this level right here. Slight move over, right? We actually swung it off of this raindrop here, right? And that was actually a nice move right there. The next day, I mean, these essentially doubled, right? And then you had another raindrop right here and then pause, right, as it pierced the cloud, and then another move up. Just incredible stuff. So a little bit of chop. And this is the key stuff right here. Guys, we've been talking about cloud all week. This thin area right here, we did a 3-minute video on this the other day. We call this like Thor's twins, right? So this is the a great opportunity for price to slip through the cloud without any of the gobbledygook, right? So that was a huge one a couple days ago with another move above it. And now here we are again today with a blue raindrop. So price action from here is going to be very interesting. It does look a little bit stalled out here, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of price action we get from here. So if we get a bearish one, a bearish southern raindrop, boom, we might hit the cloud again. So we'll keep an eye on it. But again, we'll just continue to do our strategy on it.
Beautiful. Can I? I'm going to switch my screen over real quick. I want to show a really cool case study on just blue raindrops. Not only just forming single-handedly, but also within like a cluster. So what I mean by that is these raindrops. This is Caterpillar responds really nicely to these, especially over the last 6 months. You can see here on April 26th, we did have a move up originally from March. About 130 to 144, so a little less than 15% move up, and we had a pullback. And then what do we have? We have this head and shoulders forming. We've got literally your shoulder here. You've got your head forming here, and then you've got another shoulder here. So what's really interesting here is you've literally got this blue raindrop that forms right at this shoulder level. So you can see here, if we kind of put it right at this average of these, you can see how perfectly this blue raindrop reacted and moved very hard down afterwards. I mean, it literally went from 140 down to 119. So a $20 move after that. We move to the bottom. We actually don't form a blue raindrop here, shockingly. Have our move to the upside. Blue raindrop forms, and notice how the price kind of stalls out from here. You stall out at 135. You do get a move up to around 139, but pretty much the price is stagnant. And then you've got your reversal to the downside. Blue raindrop forms. Price catches a bid over the next couple of days. You've got your move to the upside. Blue raindrop forms right at previous resistance here. This was previous support where price was trying to consolidate before the next move down. Blue raindrop, reversal, 2 blue raindrops. This is the cluster that I was mentioning. And then you've got your absolute rip to the upside over the last 15 days or so. So this is not an end-all, be-all blue raindrop, rules everything. But this is a really great tool to use when you're looking at other indicators, other moving average crosses, whatever you're using. But use this in conjunction and see how things match up, if there's any confluence there, and you'll definitely be surprised to see what you'll find with these. So, I think that really ends it for tonight. We are right at 10:30. I want to thank everybody again for jumping on. Quickly, we do have many more things to come on the roadmap. Some of the things that will be coming here in the next month are market scanning and watch list alerts. So you'll be able to actually scan the market for whatever conditions you're watching. And we will be continuing to improve the user experience this quarter. Next quarter into the second half of 2020 is going to be focused on data, brokerage integration, that type of thing. So still a ton of stuff to come. And a big thank you to John again for joining. This is, I think, the second one you've been on. I think we've done 3 total, but always have a blast with you coming on. And thank you so much for joining. And thank you, everybody, for joining tonight and watching us go over some charts.
Thank you, Jake, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's been fun, as always.
Absolutely. And make sure, everyone, you check out John's site, positive-trends.com. You can also follow him on Twitter, True Bubblehead. I'm still not sure where the Bubblehead name came from, but I love it. And we will definitely have you on again. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. TrendSpider.com is where you can check out more information, or you can just go to hello@TrendSpider.com, and you can ask us anything you'd like through email. So definitely, please make sure to check it out. And once again, John, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone have a fantastic night.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it so much. Surely I'm going to post a couple of your ideas on Twitter if you can check that out. So, all right, guys.
All right.
Thank you
So much. See ya. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.